With a special pre-order price of $700 and an MSRP of $850, I had the pleasure of testing the Segway Nintebot F3. This is an excellent commuter scooter. You can use this in an efficiency mode or sports mode, or even walk it around, which helps you get around towns and around campuses. Definitely gets you around in the city as well. I'm a bigger rider, I'm about 190 pounds. So when I go up a hill, say 6% or a 9% grade, on other scooters that I've used, I have a really hard time maintaining any speed whatsoever, and I find myself having to kick. But with the F3, it actually managed to take me up a steep hill of 12 degrees and maintain a speed at a minimum of 6 miles per hour. Now, the top speed on this scooter is 20 miles per hour, and it has a maximum range of 44 miles. But of course, to reach that kind of range, you're going to need to run this thing in eco mode and be on flat roads for the most part, maybe some declines as well. Now, I wasn't in a position to test it for 44 contiguous miles or even string together anything of that range with that efficiency mode and that type of flatness, because I ride these things for fun. I don't ride them for work or to get around town. I love to ride around the neighborhood with my kids. It's one of my favorite things to do. And in doing so, I do have some hills I have to go up, as I mentioned before, and then a lot of flat areas with windy roads and taking turns, often stopping to make sure my kids are okay and they can catch up to me. Now, on these roads, there are a lot of potholes. Sometimes there's pine cones or there are giant rocks in the way, and I always avoid obstacles like that, and you should too. And by the way, good time to say, always wear a helmet. But in testing this, I intentionally rode over pine cones and some of the, let's say, moderately sized rocks, nothing that would damage the scooter. And I really enjoyed the fact that this has a front hydraulic suspension and a rear elastometer suspension. What that means is I can go over those little bumps or even get back onto the sidewalk from the street without having, any kind of pressure or pain put on my back that was intolerable. And for sure, I have other scooters such as a G30 LP from Segway, and my daughter has a scooter from another brand that was also about $800. And those scooters do not have suspensions. Now I feel like, having used the F3, I can't go back. I have to have suspension. These tires are 10-inch self-sealing tires, and the board is pretty large, wide enough for my feet, which is about 10 and a half inches without shoes on. And I tend to wear, larger, more comfortable shoes. So that can put, extra space on the board for sure. But I managed to ride without any issue. Something really important to me as I ride with my kids is safety. And safety can be viewed in a couple of different ways, right? So on the one hand, you have the build of the scooter itself. This is very well built. I already mentioned the suspension. It has a 1,000 watt max power. Now, what this means is I can get ahead of my kids to check for any kind of traffic hazards, such as cars coming in the road or maybe a pothole that's big and very hard to avoid. Then I can slow back down very easily without losing too much momentum and then be right there with my kids in a pack type formation. Another way to think of safety is the lights and the turn signals, the reflectivity, and all those types of things that some scooters have in abundance and others do not. The F3 is a very thoughtful design when it comes to safety in this regard. There's an automatic headlamp. Of course, you can turn that off, make it a manual headlamp if you'd like, but I found it to be very bright. Now, in the summertime, I like to go to a part of the country where it's pretty deserty, and I take my nephews out. They're older than their 20s, and we go out for a ride. And sometimes it ends up being towards the evening, so I want to have a headlamp that's going to be nice and bright. And we actually have, in this little pack of ours with my nephews, a Segway G2 Max. It's my youngest nephew has that one. And we were all relying on him the last time we went out for a ride last summer. But this summer, I'll be able to help illuminate the road ahead of us, which is also littered with potholes and pine cones. So anyhow, you'll be very happy to know there are a lot of good safety features with this particular scooter, not just the headlamp, but also turn signals that you just press one button. You can then have the turn signal flash left or right. You press that button again and it disables. It will not disable automatically. Then there's the safety considerations of, theft and reducing that. Now, these things they're not very heavy devices, these scooters, right? They're under 50 pounds. You can just grab it, walk away with it, of course. But there is a locking feature. It's called Segway's AirLock, which is an automatic lock and unlock using your Bluetooth on your phone. And it's all controlled from your app and then, in concert with the control cluster and the display area. So I do use the AirLock, but it's not always working. So sometimes I have to do things a little bit differently. But overall, I gotta say, this is one heck of a scooter and a great deal, even at the full MSRP of $850. Thanks to Segway for sending it over. We'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.